Welcome to the Happy Market Research Podcast, your favorite place for strategies, stories, and insights from the world of market research. Brought to you by your host, Dan Fleetwood.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Happy Market Research Podcast. I am your host, Dan Fleetwood, and today's guest is Doug Keith. Doug, welcome to the show.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I'm excited to dive into the conversation today, but for those that don't know you, Doug, can you tell people a little bit about you, your background, and maybe what you're doing now?
Absolutely. I've been in research since 94. I actually have an undergraduate degree in journalism, and I worked as a producer in public radio for a few years. Got a master's in communication, thinking I'd stay in public radio. And then I took one research methods class. I'm like, so what is this? And I thought maybe I should learn about making stuff, why people might be interested in it versus just making things for whatever reason. It took me a little while to get into the industry. I had to learn the basics about it, but I taught college for a full time for a year. So I kind of built up research skills in a way from interviewing musicians or artists. And then once I got into research, I mainly was doing quantitative work, trained in qual at the start of my career at Burke Institute. I do the occasional qual project. And then in 2007, I started my own business. I've been a VP account executive at TNS and Media and Entertainment. And I decided I had young kids. I needed to do something different, just kind of change in my approach to living. And when I went out on my own, I started doing a lot of website usability work. And then all of a sudden I was like doing more and more qualitative. So now the majority of the work that I do is qualitative, which I really enjoy because it just amazes me how impactful it is with clients. I'll do one interview and so we change everything, but you could do, 1,000 person study that costs $200,000 and can you just send me the results? It's just hearing a human speak is just amazingly impactful. So that's one of the things I think I really enjoy most about what I'm doing now. And I've also really been focusing on just thinking at a high level and trying to help clients solve strategic problems, even when I haven't been asked to do that. But given the opportunity, if I feel like there's some way I can help at that higher level, I've really come to enjoy doing that.
Well, that's great. You have an awesome background, and I'm sure we can dive more into that at some point. But today I want to focus the podcast around really how researchers and brands can avoid playing it safe and start thinking more strategically by pushing back to the edge of innovation. Now, Doug, candidly, we talked about this, and this is something that you're really passionate about. I know perhaps you're going to be speaking about it at an upcoming conference here, but I want to dive into that a little bit, and we'll explore that throughout the conversation today. But first to kick it off, what's the biggest change you've seen in market research over the past few years?
It's been happening for many years, but has accelerated, and it's just go faster. Can't you go faster? Certainly cheaper, but can't you go faster? And a few years ago, you would just hear the term agile. We do agile research, and honestly, I still don't really know what that means. I think agile research might mean DIY. I really don't know what it means. But I think that's a good example of agile research. Like, okay, I'll just do this myself, and I know enough to be able to field it and get the results and turn this around much more quickly. And there's a plus to that. My stakeholder says, look, we have to make a decision by the end of the week about what we're doing. We just really need to get moving. I don't have 7 weeks to get this perfect research. So there is such a thing as good enough. But I do think overall, it's just giving people less time to think. And now that AI is coming in, and now it's like, can't we just do this in 3 days? It's even taking away more time to think. And I think that is really becoming a detriment to both brands and even to our industry. But it doesn't have to be, but it could be if we don't pay attention to what's happening.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. You mentioned agile. I think I have the same sentiment around that. Like, what is agile? And essentially it means, hey, we can do things faster, I think, is what I've come to learn. And Doug, it reminds me of like the phrase, like, good, fast, and cheap. Like, you can only have 2 of them, right? Pick 2. So which 2 do you want, right? if that's the list you're going off of. So
it's true. But I was watching a webinar not too long ago with, like, I just call myself, I don't want to say I'm old. So I said, I'm a veteran in the industry.
There you go.
And I was watching this webinar with a couple of young tech guys. One of them said, remember the thing about good, fast, and cheap? and you can only have one or only have two, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yep.
it's all three. Clients want all three. You got to do all three now. Stop thinking that other way. And that's what's taking the that time to think away, because now I do need it fast. And the cheap part is it good or is it good enough? So that's another example of where that triangle still holds in one way, but we have to be realistic about where the world's headed, and that extra time, money, the highest quality work. There's time. You have to pick your spots, if I would put it that way.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then Doug, what are some trends or innovations that you're excited about right now? Anything come to mind?
AI is freaking people out. And I do qualitative research, and I've watched a lot of webinars, done a lot of talking with people lately about AI moderators and synthetic respondents. But QRCA did a series of webinars last week about sort of tech innovations. And I came to realize, as opposed to freaking out, it's just another tool. And how can you utilize the tool, as opposed to saying, I give up, or let me explain to you why I'm the genius and you need to work with me. So I found AI to be really helpful truly as a helper. Help me get the next stage more quickly, versus there's some replacement going on, and that's an issue, I think, for us, what we can talk more about. But I guess on balance, I am excited about it. I do think it's really added to my capabilities to be able to do a better job, and sometimes give me more time to think, or maybe think differently.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. And the way that you put it as a helper, I think is the right way to think about it, at least in my mind, in that it's like the best assistant you could have, I think, in some regard, right? Because it can do things fast. I know we were talking about agile, I won't say that word in regard to it, but it is great for being a good assistant, and then also carrying out tasks. I think in terms of the, when you think about research and all the different things that you can do, it is going to be a game changer, I believe. And I think if you're not on board, you probably should at least get on board and not like just dismiss it because you don't want to deal with it. It's here, right?
Yeah, I was at a conference a few years ago, and I was standing with two other veterans in the industry, and they were talking about, oh my gosh, there's so many talks about AI. And one person says, look, I'm probably going to be out of this industry in 5 years. I'll be retired. I don't really care. And I just thought to myself, well, maybe 2 years, or maybe just stop now. Yeah. Because this is happening. And, a lot of times you don't get to choose when it's over for you. You know what I mean?
That's true.
All of a sudden they're like, oh, you don't need me anymore? And you can't catch up anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. Even though sometimes I'm not always bleeding edge, I'm like, I better pay attention. And it took me 6 months to start even using AI tools. But at least I've been paying attention, because I just don't want to have that moment where, why didn't anybody call today? What happened?
Right.
And then I'll never know what happened. And this is one of the things that will happen.
Exactly.
What's going on now.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I know you talked a lot about thinking and how AI is maybe replacing that or a substitute, but how do you see AI and automation shaping the future of research, and what risks do they pose to original thinking? I know you have some thoughts here.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about this thing about, being afraid of AI, about being reluctant to use it. And the way I'm thinking now is not really about AI. That's just the latest iteration. Like I said, agile before. In 2000, I remember online research. It's going to destroy research. We can debate the merits of that. But, I was used to doing random sampling. People got paid nothing for a 25 minutes, but it was random. You had a lot more control over the sample. So it's just another iteration. It is at the speed of light now, but it is just another iteration of what's going on. And I think one of the advantages of the old school way of doing things is it made you think carefully about every piece. So once someone had told you, this is what we're trying to accomplish, I got to write a survey, I have some questions I can use, but you think really hard. And I've definitely heard people say now at the survey discussion, I went to AI, it spit the thing out, I made some tweaks to it, I'm on my way. I think sometimes I put too much thought into things like what's the question going to be like? But on the other hand, I've seen it blow up when somebody can't answer it. So that's just one example of when you start kind of compressing the steps and then you don't bother doing the hard work anymore, because why would you? It shows up. It looks good. It's good enough. I got to start tomorrow. So now you have good enough questions. Now you start asking the questions, and especially if you use an AI moderator and you're trying to do it quickly, it's only going to do a certain level of probes, but it's good enough. And 3 days later, you have some results. And now you put the results into an AI analysis tool. You hear it's getting watered down at every step. And if you haven't paid attention at any of those steps, the thing you're delivering is so bland that you have lost what makes what you do special. And I've realized that I fall into that trap sometimes because I talk a big game about, oh, I really have something to add. And then I rush through it, and then I just pull out the stuff and I tweak it a little bit and send it off. And I'm like, done, go on to the next thing. And then I think, I didn't add the one thing that they'll really care about.
Right.
So I just like, thanks for sending it. And then, you kind of lost that relationship. And you haven't even learned yourself. That's is you have to think all along, am I learning something myself, or was this a factory I turned on? Yeah. As someone mentioned, I Love Lucy thing with all the chocolates where she's just then shoving in her mouth and all that kind of stuff, you know, and that's what it kind of becomes. Like, you don't care about chocolate quality or how they're wrapped. You say, oh, just blow the whistles so I go home. And I think you can fall into that trap. I've fallen into it myself, but at least I recognize it. And I say, oh, okay, you have to slow down yourself as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, Doug, I'm curious what you think. There's a lot of people out there that say, hey, AI will help you out with the tasks and it'll do, some of those for you, and it frees you up for more strategic thinking. Do you think that's the case, or do you think people are going to get so lost in just kind of the mundane and just let's get it out the door that even they'll bypass the strategic thinking aspect of it because it frees up time for that?
Right. I have heard that. And a webinar I watched where it was AI moderators with synthetic respondents, and what we could do in 7 weeks, we now do in 2 weeks. But guess what? That gives us more time for analysis. Well, my question to clients is, well, you said you could do it in 2 weeks. So why don't you send it off in a week and a half? Because I need to move on. It's not a knock on clients. Someone's sending me 3 emails today. I need this stuff. And you said, but hey, we freed up all this field time. Now, can I use what we would normally use to think about this? No. So I just feel like we're going to end up at a point, and I've talked to some clients who have said that there's no time for that anymore. And that's the real loss, because if you ever think about that kind of experience you've had where you've been working on something, you're exhausted, you put it away, 3 days later, you're taking a shower, you're like, geez, I never even thought of that. I got to contact these people. Don't even read what I already sent. This is so much better. They've already moved on.
Yeah.
If you haven't built in that couple of days just to go percolate and go for a walk and some music or play with your dog or whatever, it works in the background. If it's all foreground, that's when you're like, I just gotta wrap this up and get it sent off. And it's all about the deadline and not about the deliverable, not about making a difference. Really, I think you use the opportunity to make a difference when you're just rushing through it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Taking time, even just away from, like you mentioned, taking a shower, or you could be out walking or doing whatever, but just taking time away from what you're doing in order to just take a break and think, and then ideas come to you, right? So you never know when those things might happen, and you're like, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that, but sometimes it's too late. You're right, because the deadline's passed. So, yeah.
I also think when you talk about saving time for the analysis, I've had some recent experiences where I'll just be having conversations with clients or just listening to a conversation they're having with someone else. And I'll hear this thing that is 10 levels above whatever it is we're trying to do in this research project. But I've heard that at the beginning. So that gives me time to factor that in and think about how would we work that in? How will we learn more about that and be able to not only deliver at this level, but also at this level? But if you've compressed all that beginning stuff and you said, well, I have plenty of time for analysis. Okay, did you have any conversations with the client? Did you do any research on your own? Do you even have a thought? You didn't put much thought into the questions you're going to ask. A tool did that, and that moderated it, AI moderated. And again, I'm not knocking AI moderation at all. I'm just kind of using it as an example. When I guess the way I put it is, if you outsource everything, then you just are not involved at the same level. My last job, I had a great team of people working for me. And I remember going in my office one day and I thought, what do I do? Do I do anything? Because they're dealing with the clients, they're putting together the materials and the report. And in a way, I mean, it was nice from a work perspective, but from personal development or really adding, something, or having people go, wait, I think it's a smart guy. They never even heard from me, and because I outsourced everything. Right. And kind of divorce myself from it. And that is the real danger here. You divorce yourself from so many of the steps, and you've been given permission to do it, by the way. Yeah. The client's saying, hey, let's move it along. Do we really have to do a call? Can't you just send the thing? I'll just approve it and we'll start doing it. Can I talk to you for 30 minutes? No, sometimes I get hired just to do the moderation. So here's the guide. We're talking to the client. He starts talking about question one. I said, could you tell me the objectives or what the business problem is? Oh, yeah. Okay. So it wasn't like I was a genius. It's just, this is the way it's going. Just move on. But by having those business issues in my mind, then I could ask better questions and do better analysis. But you can't skip the upfront. It's kind of like you're not going to go straight to the altar and say, we'll have more time to get to know each other after we're married. Let's skip the whole beginning part.
We have a whole lifetime, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't want to do it then. It's too late. You might learn some things like, man, you ever have this experience? I wish I had been more thoughtful at the beginning. But by the time you're in the analysis phase, you just can't go back and fix those other pieces.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I want to shift gears a little bit here, Doug, and talk about some things you've written about in regard to, even like the boldest innovators often regress to the mean. And I'm curious, like, what you mean by that, why you think it happens, and what does that look like in research today?
The example I've been thinking of recently is Blockbuster Video. I mean, wasn't there a time where it was almost like Kleenex, right? Don't give me a tissue, give me a Kleenex. Let's get a block, make it a Blockbuster night, I think was their ad. Yeah. And like, yeah, absolutely. And it was a whole experience of going to the store and picking the thing out and struggling to pick the thing out, whatever the special thing might be. And I remember getting the first DVD in the mail from Netflix, and I just kind of thought, I wonder how this will work. And I'm like, oh, geez, I forgot to return it. It's a little bit of a pain, but at least I could pick what I wanted, and I didn't have to leave the house. And meanwhile, Blockbuster's saying, come on down to the store. Come on down. They didn't even say, let's just mail it to you. And then once Netflix is like, we can just build this online content, like a portal for content. Meanwhile, Blockbuster's still saying, come on down, come on down. But Blockbuster's brand was synonymous with content. And if they had just taken that cue and said, we could probably figure that out, then they could have been the leader easily. But I don't know what the origins of Blockbuster are, but imagine when someone, whoever it was, came up with that first idea, and they get a couple of people we're all real excited about. We're working on it together. We have to learn. We have to iterate, and you're scrappy. So you got the first store going, and then people like it. Second store, and then so here you are. If you think of the bell curve, here you are out here, because you are at the edge. You're doing something that people haven't done before. And you're loving it as well. So there's a lot of passion for it, and you're collaborating. I've got an idea. You're good at this. You're good at this. And then over time, as you become more successful, now you're kind of in the middle of that curve. And now you care about results and quarterly results. And now you have a big organization. Everybody's in their silo. I'm the marketing person. We're the marketing team. We're the product team. We're the store team. You don't know how it is in the stores. Well, you don't know what it's like to write content. Now you hear everything. The gears are just sand getting in the gears. And while they're doing that, Netflix goes, we're out here at the edge, right? And someone else has thought of something that just solves a much bigger problem for people in a whole different way. And what they're really smart about was, let's make our own stuff. Blockbuster never said, we have a whole wall of content that we paid to make for you just to come down. So they started giving something, not only people convenience, but something that was brand new to them, a new source of content. So one day, someone in Blockbuster must have said, "We're cooked. It's over." And what happened? And if you went back to trace it, you could probably find the time where we're in the middle of the curve, and that's kind of it. And so it's a natural progression for things to grow. But I've done enough work over many years with clients to recognize that people get stuck in their silos and they have to hit their KPIs. And all of those things are the enemy of true innovation. And true innovation isn't, we're dying, let's do some desperation move. It's, no, we're always thinking about how to kind of stay a little more on that edge and not kind of get stuck where we are.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that story that with Blockbuster and Netflix is interesting too, because Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix early on and they passed on it. So it's like, they really made a mistake there. But
well, imagine too, if they bought Netflix, would they have let it grow or killed it off? Like, we don't need this. And then it would have been something else that would have killed them off. So it's hard to know. They might have bought that, and frankly, they might have ruined it, not giving it space to do something else.
Yeah, I think they probably would have ruined it based on based on what I've heard. So what's a mindset shift you think researchers can make to avoid falling into the safe, middle of the road work, kind of avoiding the middle? Is there a mindset shift that you recommend?
Yeah, I think there are two. Number one is truly slow down. Buy as much time as you can. When someone says, "Can you send it to me tomorrow?" but you won't have time to think about it today, say, "How about could I send it Friday? Because I really want to have time just to mull this over." And I'm just moving into the reporting phase now on a project. And here it is Thursday. I finished the focus groups yesterday. And the client said, "Can we meet on Monday to go over the outline that you're going to put together?" Which, by the way, we hadn't even discussed that. So when can we do that? Does that sound okay? Well, first of all, my days are kind of booked up. But then also, when I replied, I said, just need some time to percolate on it. And not just start jamming something out that is like question 1 answer, question 2 answer versus what is the logical way to structure it. And sometimes you have to take all of the clues or all of the cards and put them all down and look at them all and then say, now would I put it back together versus I can just bang this out. And that project's a good example because it's really about personalities that would be in ads. Even going into it, I kind of thought, oh, this sounds pretty simple. And we heard so much about not only the way people think about celebrities, but also even the way they think about brands, the way they think about the client's brand. So there are much bigger things that they can learn than just what kind of person should we have? It's even like, is our product really doing the right thing? But you need time to think about all that. So that's the number one thing. Steal any time you can. If the client says, "Can you send it a day early?" say, "Are you going to really look at it a day early?"
Right.
No. Or would you just feel better having there next day versus if you give me an extra day, I'd probably do something really special. And the other things in this world, whether you're looking for a job or you're running your own business, you have to be able to say why somebody would hire you. And I realized this. I worked with a marketing person who sent me a list of questions. And one of them, he even just said to me, generally, "Doug, if you're at a conference, someone says, 'So what's your story? What do you say about yourself?'" And I realized I would say, like, I moderate focus groups and I write reports and I help people again. And if they have overflow work, like, well, everybody does that. And I just thought, well, what things do I really like? And where do I really seem to help? It's, hey, when someone says at the end of the project, "God, I never even thought of that. I've been here 15 years and I've never heard it put that way." That means I actually did something and then they might remember me the next time versus delivered everything on time, did what we asked, like a factory. And that's the other thing. You have to constantly remind yourself, what is it that I'm so great at? There are companies so great at. So we're always sure that thing is in there versus we just adapt it to whatever the client says. Sure. Yes. Oh, that sounds good. I've been in enough calls like that. Sure. Yes. That sounds good. I'm thinking to myself, those are all bad ideas. And we're going to end up in trouble at the end. So even people have been in it just a few years have so much experience that they need to be brave enough to say, can I just share my experience? Well, we can do it absolutely the way you want, but we want to have a tremendous outcome. And let me just share my experience. But if we just let AI do all the work, it's kind of, you just truly outsourced it and you have made it not special, and they will not remember you the next time that they need help.
Yeah, no, I really like that, Doug, because you take it from being like tactical, like different tasks you have to do and describing yourself in that way. And how much better is it to describe yourself as like an outcome-based person and basing it off of those? So that's very, very profound, I think. I really like that. What personal habit or perspective helps you stay in that edge mindset when doing research? Is it some of those same things you mentioned, or is there anything else that you'd recommend? Or
yes, so this might sound kind of trite because you hear it all the time in research, but it's actually true, which is curiosity. And I think, for better or for worse, I'm just a very curious person. And when someone starts talking, I'm already starting to think about what the meaning is, what they're saying. I want to learn more about what they're talking about. When I say for worse, sometimes it's like, hey, man, this is like a digression of my digression, and we do not have time for this. So staying focused sometimes, it can be a challenge when you're just interested to learn things. But when I say it sounds trite, okay, I'll be curious. But I think what's more important, when I go back to that sort of the thing I was talking about, sort of the secret sauce, what is it that you have to really offer? It's easy with the time constraints on what we do in our industry in particular to just frankly get burned out. Like, I just want to get this turned around and sent out. And I've been working on my own for 18 years. Most of my work's referral based. And that means someone has to say good things about me. So if all I do is turn things around and they're mediocre because I'm tired or I'm burned out, then I'm losing that advantage. And also, I'm just not investing in myself anymore.
Yeah.
So everything that I do, in a way, is an investment in myself. And that sounds like a good reason to do something, right? Like, oh, I'm going to learn something from this. I'll improve. I'll make myself more valuable. I might actually even enjoy it because I put that extra effort into it. And that feeds your curiosity. And researchers are naturally curious, but there's a lot of things that are fighting against that, and speed is one of them. There's no time to say, let me look into this a little bit more. No. There's no time for you to be interested. Can you just do what I'm asking you to do? So I think constantly feeding that curiosity is really important. Always thinking about how you are improving yourself with the work you're doing. And one other thing I really thought about is just like get away. So we talked about, go take the shower, walk the dog, go listen to some music, go do that thing you love, go hike the mountain. Not so you have time to figure out what the findings are, key findings are for anything. But let's say you wanted to learn how to hike, and then you took lessons and you got really into watching videos. I've had this happen so many times. I'm watching something, learning something that's completely outside of the industry. That's completely applicable to this project, to what I'm doing. This could change the way I think about things. Steve Jobs was a Buddhist, right? And he looked at the way things moved and he said, this doesn't make any sense. But he drew that thinking from Buddhism. It's from like sort of religious beliefs, as opposed to, whatever, work fast, break things, whatever the thing, let's keep doing stuff.
Right.
And we do some things. And when's the IPO coming out, and you're not, I'd say, so one other thing, make sure it's helping somebody.
Yeah.
So if you're helping your client, if you're helping your client, help your customer, remind them they're helping the customer. I'm sorry, you said one thing, and I think I've done like
no,
three.
This is good. I'm loving all these little tidbits. So this is good.
So, but I think that's another thing that gets lost in the speed with which we do things. The lack of strategic thinking is, wait a minute, why do we get into this? To help somebody? Like, we want to solve a customer's problem, and then all of a sudden we're just like, got to hit the KPIs. Yeah. And so without naming a project I did last year, I had that experience where I got an internal document that said all the reasons it was good to consider this change. And I looked, and there wasn't one bullet point that said, help the customer. So I said, have you thought about helping the customer? Like, oh yeah, that's right. And because they hadn't thought of that, they
Right.
actually were going to do something that could actually damage their brand. So they're trying to solve an internal problem. Let's be more efficient. Let's reduce our resource needs, that type of thing. Did you help anybody? Oh, no, they hate what we do, but we save some money and we do things faster. And then it's gone. Someone else will serve them better.
Yeah, good way to go out of business, right? Awesome. Hey, Doug, as we start to wrap up, if listeners want to connect with you or learn more about your work, where should they go?
Probably LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's the most somewhat up-to-date information. People sometimes will go to the website that I have and they're like, I took a look at your website. I'm like, I'm sorry about that. I basically have it. Because I'm a consultant, so people know I exist. Oh, well, if you're a website, like you're a real person. Yeah. And I'm actually even thinking about doing some rebranding in terms of just this higher order of thinking. One is stress that more. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn is definitely the best place, I think, to go and just even to connect with me. You can send me a message there. We can follow up, and then it's a great way for me to learn about what other people are doing too, which I really do love.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Awesome, Doug. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I love your thought process too. I think it's unique, and I really enjoyed it. So hopefully the listeners will enjoy it as well. I'm sure they will. So again, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. When you're sometimes I'm like, am I evangelizing for this? Nobody wants to hear that, so when I have an opportunity to talk about it. So I'm like, just dial it down a little bit. So I really hope people took some good things away, but aren't like, is he ever going to stop? So thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.